It was January 13th in the year 1128 AD that Pope Honorius II grants a papal sanction to the military order known as the Knights Templar, declaring it to be an army of God. Led by Frenchman Hugues de Payens, the Knights Templar organization was founded in 1118 AD. Its self-imposed mission was to protect Christian pilgrims on their way to and from the Holy Land during the Crusades, the series of military expeditions aimed at defeating Muslims in Palestine. For a while, the Templars had only 9 members, mostly due to their rigid rules. In addition to having noble birth, the knights were required to take strict vows of poverty, obedience, and chastity. In 1127, new promotional efforts convinced many more noblemen to join the order, gradually increasing its size and influence. By the time the Crusades ended unsuccessfully in the early 14th century, the order had grown extremely wealthy, provoking the jealousy of both religious and secular powers. In 1307, King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V combined to take down the Knights Templar, arresting the Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, on charges of heresy, sacrilege, and Satanism. Under torture, Molay and other leading Templars confessed and were eventually burned at the stake. They continued their eternities. Clement dissolved the Templars in 1312. The modern-day Catholic Church has admitted that the persecution of the Knights Templar was unjustified and claimed that Pope Clement was pressured by secular rulers to dissolve the order. Over the centuries, myths and legends about the Templars have grown, including the belief that they may have discovered the holy relics at Temple Mount, including the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, or parts of the cross from Christ's crucifixion. The imagined secrets of the Templars have inspired various books and movies, including the blockbuster novel and film, The Da Vinci Code. On January 13th in 1966, our nation's 36th president, Lyndon B. Johnson, appoints the first African-American cabinet member, making Robert C. Weaver head of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, the agency that develops and implements national housing policy and enforces fair housing laws. In keeping with his vision for a greater society, Johnson sought to improve race relations and eliminate urban blight. As many other countries, Black Americans lived in rundown inner-city areas. Appointing Weaver was an attempt to show his Black American constituency that he meant business on both counts. Weaver's expertise in social and economic issues concerning urban Black Americans was well known. Prior to his appointment as HUD Secretary, he held key positions in several Democratic administrations. Under our nation's 32nd president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, in the mid to late 1930s, he advised the Secretary of the Interior and served as a special assistant with the Housing Authority. In 1940, he was appointed to the National Defense Advisory Commission and worked to mobilize Black workers during World War II. From 1955 to 1959, Weaver served as a rent commissioner for the state of New York, then went on to serve as head of the Housing and Home Finance Agency under President John F. Kennedy, our nation's 35th president. As HUD's senior administrator, Weaver expanded affordable housing programs and in 1968 advocated for the passage of the Fair Housing Act, which prohibited discrimination against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling or in provision of services or facilities in connection therewith because of race, color, religion, sex, family status, or national origin. Weaver and Johnson shared the goal of revitalizing America's urban areas through improved housing, the creation of inner-city parks, and support for Black American-owned businesses. Robert C. Weaver continued his eternity on July 17th in 1997. It was January 13th in the year 1990 that Douglas Wilder, the first Black American to be elected governor of an American state, takes office as governor of Virginia. Wilder broke a number of color barriers in Virginia politics and remains an enduring and controversial figure in the state's political scene. Douglas Wilder was born in 1931 in Church Hill, a poor and segregated neighborhood of Richmond, Virginia. Douglas Wilder comes from a generation of Black Americans whose grandparents were slaves. His name, Douglas, was actually named for Frederick Douglass. He grew up in the Jim Crow era, graduating from Richmond's Virginia Union University in 1951. Wilder fought in the Korean War, earning the Bronze Star before studying law at Howard University and returning to Richmond to practice. Wilder entered politics by way of a special election to the state Senate in 1969, becoming the state's first African-American state senator since Reconstruction. A Democrat, he developed a reputation for taking on other members of his party. In 1982, Douglas Wilder threatened to run for Senate as an independent. This was after the presumptive Democratic nominee gave a speech praising the Byrd Organization, the powerful and formerly pro-segregation political machine that had long dominated the Virginia Democratic Party. In 1986, Wilder became the first African American to win a statewide election in Virginia when he was elected lieutenant governor. 4 years later, in an extremely narrow race that triggered an automatic recount, he was elected governor. Now, some political scientists have speculated that race was unexpectedly close due to the Bradley effect. The Bradley effect, reported by History.com, is an effect on polls of racist voters lying about their willingness to vote for non-white candidates. Though Republicans had painted him as a liberal due to his pro-choice stance on abortion, Wilder governed as a tough-on-crime centrist. Bills aimed at reducing crime and gun violence, as well as infrastructure spending in the rapidly expanding suburbs of Northern Virginia, were hallmarks of his tenure. Wilder also divested all state institutions from the apartheid government of South Africa, making it the first Southern state to do so. Virginia law prohibits governors from running for re-election, but Wilder remained active in state politics. In the 2000s, he was one of the leaders of the movement to directly elect the mayor of Richmond. At the time, the city council chose one of its members to serve as mayor. In 2003, an overwhelming majority of Richmonders approved the direct election measure, and Wilder was elected mayor the following year with 79% of the vote. Wilder supported then-Senator Barack Obama's first run for president, although he declined to endorse him in 2012. Since leaving office in 2008, Wilder has taught at Virginia Commonwealth University School of Public Affairs, which is named for him, and has worked to establish museums and memorials in remembrance of slavery. All historic information divulged on this audio file can be verified on History.com.